Join us.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more Megafig to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we'll be taking a look at Frankenstein, a mega figure released by McFarlane. Now we did see some images before release of this figure, but then we got a closer look from a lot of videos about the New York Comic Con, where you could see this figure displayed along with a bunch of other figures. Kind of a little bit of a sneak peek, but I was really interested to take a look at this guy because some of the images didn't really grab me. And as you know, as I always say, you should always get the figure in hand first, take a look at him, and then really decide if he is a keeper or not. Now, I did get this from the McFarlane toy store, and one cool thing is, if you follow me on Instagram, you did see that they did send me a free figure along with my order. Now, it did come with a little note that said that this was like an appreciation, and although the box was damaged, that this is like a random thing that they do to give collectors, something special for picking up stuff from the McFarlane store. But I did think that this was really awesome, and something that they really didn't have to do, but I actually was interested in picking up that Shadow of Spawn figure, and it's really awesome that they actually hooked me up with one. So shout out to McFarlane Toy Store. Now you have to be smart when you order from there, using codes or doing bundles, but most of the time you do get them a little bit below retail, so that is awesome. Now, I was actually really interested to take a look at this guy. Don't know much about him from the comics. I did read up a little, and this version of Frankenstein is kind of like on a team. I think if you had to compare it to anything, it would be kind of like Hellboy, how they're like paranormal investigators or monster investigators. And this version of Frankenstein is actually on that sort of team. But the story does seem kind of interesting. I would like to look it up a little bit more. There is tons of artwork, that you could look up that actually looks really awesome. Now, he does look really alive in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at it. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, this is not really needed, especially for this guy, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have some source material from the comics. And on the back, you do have some information. Now, you could read this to get a little bit more insight on the story behind this character. But you know me, I love me some monsters. I love me some old school scary stuff. So for me, this was a no-brainer. He also comes with an actually really nice sword. Has cool details there on the hilt. A little bit sturdier than a lot of the swords we've received from McFarlane. And a nice copper kind of brass color on the handle there. So pretty sweet. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now, first impressions, he has kind of like an old school dress. I guess you could see, it's from back in the day. You got a lot of buckles and stuff on here. They could probably use some gold or brass coloring, which we might take a look at. But first impressions, he does look well sculpted. Has nice color contrast to him with his skin being really dark, and then the yellows and the red from his vest. Actually gives it a really cool composition. So that is awesome. Let's take a look at the head. Beautiful head sculpt. Now, this is one thing that I did figure out, and that is that the images were lit up so brightly that's what kind of gave me that off feeling about the whole figure actually. But now that you get him with like some shadows and some darkness, probably with some lighting, this guy is actually really awesome. Beautiful attention to detail on the sculpt work. He got those bolts like on his temples for some electricity power. Pretty nice stitching work done around the cranium. You do have some like black wash and added paint details on the head. So it actually is really cool. Let's take a look at the articulation. Now he does look down, but the collar from his vest kind of gets in the way. But if you were to like crunch it down, you can make him look down pretty well. Can look up actually really good. No modding here yet, but for what he comes with, he has a lot of range. You do have right to left. You can tilt his head for some character. And then of course you've got a lot of range there. In the double ball setup for the head articulation. So all in all, really happy with that. Let's go ahead and take a look at, he does have side to side. Do have that full range of swivel at the waist. Now he does not have an upper chest rotation. That's, basically how most of the Megafigs are constructed, but he does have a sweet hip swivel. You could still twist him, get him in some cool poses. Now he does not have too much of a forward crunch. I mean, basically non-existent. I mean, really slight, but he can actually lean back fairly well. Just that the coat kind of pushes him back up. Oh no, but I mean, this is a big guy. He doesn't need to have that much, gymnastic style articulation. So for what he is, he could move around really well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the shoulders. Now, there is no butterfly bushing in the socket, but you still get that up and down range, front to back, and then a lot of swivel in there. That is just from the socket, where the arm fits in. You do have a bicep swivel, single jointed elbows, but you do have a swivel at the elbow, which gives them added range, which kind of makes up for that, single joint. Now going from the shoulders down into the forearms, beautiful sculpt work, a lot of cool paint detail. You got stitching on the bicep and then stitching on the forearm because of course he's, made up of different human body parts. Going down into the gloves. Now these gloves are awesome. Have like grain on them, and you can even see like the muscle definition beneath the glove of the big old paws that he has. And then of course at the wrist you do have that 4-point of articulation with the wrist ball joint. Pretty sweet. Pretty awesome. And then going down the other side you have the same setup. Now the hands are different. One is kind of a gripping hand and the other one is more of like a, gesturing, grasping hand, I guess you could say. Check out the T-pose. Pretty simple. Can't really go any higher, only because the coat does push it back down, but you can put his arms above his head. Let's take a look at the thigh swivel. Now surprisingly, he does have some thigh swivel there, which actually allows you to move the boot from left to right without a thigh cut. Can kick forward, then you can kick back really high. Look at that. And that is allowed by the trunks that are rubber, and when you go back, they just go back to their original form. Now you can cock his hip out, and he does have that cool hip rotation. Double jointed knees, kind of choppy cut up there, but in all actuality, how many different poses are you going to get this guy in, since he's such like a stocky built character? But it is there. Going down to these boots. Now these boots are kind of a new technology. where the socket actually fits into the bottom of the boot that is actually like hollowed out. So you get up at the ankle, you get down, good range there, and you don't necessarily have right to left, but you do have a good rocker. But of course you can move the boot by moving the hip. And then you do have toe articulation. Let's take a look at the lower body before we move on. Love these boots. Kind of like old equestrian looking boots, but also kind of like a wartime battle boot. So really digging those boots. Look at them from the bottom, has some awesome tread, plus some identifying marks. Moving up the back, love the scope work here. All the wrinkles in the material, the boots, going up into the back. Now he does have this coat that is pretty pliable and has tons of texture and sculpt work in it. A lot of like little fringes and stuff like that. Now on the back you do have a little kind of holster, and that of course is for his sword to fit into. Slides in pretty smoothly. And then of course you have the back of his head, more stitch work there around the cranium, and that, you know, classic kind of Frankenstein haircut. Pretty cool. All in all, I'm actually really happy with him. He's like simple but well sculpted, and we do get some added paint. But of course you can always add your own little details with him. So all in all, awesome figure, especially at the price point. Now, before we go, let's do some comparisons just so you could get an idea of the scale of him, because I was actually really surprised. Now we'll start with a really small figure, which will be the Robin Crow. You know, he's basically up to like his knees. And then this is really crazy. Look at this. If you put him next to Bizarro, you really get an idea of how immense he is. And then we'll go a little bit bigger to give him like some more scale, and that will be with Atrocitus, because that's one of the taller collect-to-build figures. And then finally, one of the figures that is actually, a little bit taller than him, and that would be Necron. A little bit of undead, similarities there. But like I said, he is really cool. I'm happy to get him in this spooky time of the season. Gonna look really good on the shelf. And actually, if you do want to get him in some poses, he does have a lot of range and ability to get down in some cool stances. So probably be a lot of fun to take pictures with. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.